I'm Salvatore. You may know me because you are meeting in the company. Usually this guy that is drinking this espresso in the kitchen, talking with everyone. And this is my nature. And today, this is the 5th time that I'm taking part in CBRE talks. And basically, I like to talk. I like to share some idea, to inspire, give some takeaway, because this is all about. And this time, I have another interesting topic that I would like to share with you. May you know this topic, or maybe you don't know how it's called. But before to introduce this topic, I want to tell you something that came from my previous life when I was working as a chemical engineering at university. So basically there I was designing and testing plastic materials for different purposes, automotive, food packaging. And one of the tests that I was performing was using this equipment. This is called the pendulum, Sharpie or ISO, it depends how you put the specimen. Here on this grip you put the specimen, plastic materials, you release the bar. This bar is impacted materials, and what it's doing is measuring the energy absorbed before the break. So once we check this energy, then we can assess if the materials was designed, the energy that absorbed this material is enough or break too early, then we can assess if it's okay. If it's not okay, then we need to do something. We need to do something with these materials. We need to reinforce. So we need to put some fillers, right? And this isn't the topic from today. So you may know this topic is resilience. Actually, my previous colleague served me on the plate because they touched several points of being resilient. And this is amazing because they make my life easily. And this is not the case that I'm the last speaker, because basically I will touch all the points that you touched. And I cannot define the human being resilience like the energy at break, because we don't want to break itself. But basically is the energy that we absorb before we collapse to the stress or to the fear, to the many things that we have. So we may define the ability to get through hard time, the ability to react and to recover from different events. And of course, this is resilience is not something that you have genetic, but it's something that you build. My previous colleague just touched many points. At some point, they did some self-assessment. They recognized they're missing something, and they actually reinforce. As you can see in this picture, so here, you can see all the things in which we are good. And basically, the fact that we are here, all the speakers, they just show you how resilient they are, because they know how to do the presentation in PowerPoint. All of us, we know how to do the PowerPoint presentation, but we didn't know how to be resilient in front of the camera. And that's why we did something before being on the stage. So there were Jarek that provide us some training, some tools, some tips to be on the stage. What does it mean? Being resilient does not mean that all the speakers were here, they were not feeling the stress before the camera. Me as well, despite I like to talk, I'm feeling the stress now. Doesn't mean that I don't feel the stress, I'm not going to all this hard time. But we know how to cope this situation, so we know how to move on, and this is all about. So, developing resilience is not something that you can do like that. Or you have a to-do list. Okay, I'm following this instruction, I'm resilient. No, just because all previous speakers, and you may know that we are different, we may react in different way to all events. Something that for me is easygoing, for you may have some consequences, because we react in different way, because we have inner strength or external strength that give us more resilience or not. So, why resilience is important for us as individual first, because give the people the way to cope all these situations that we may face in life. From our private life, from the organization, and how we are doing this. We are using our resources. First, our inner strength, and also other external resources that we built. And resilience also empower all of us to accept all the situation, all the challenges that we may have and move on, not give up as we may listen before. So people with a lack of resilience are more likely to be, let's say, overwhelmed about all the situation. So that's why it's important to build this resilient, to be more resilient. So why then is important for us? Because we are an employee in CBRE, we are in a team, we are in a company, and we are dealing with many situations. So as a team as well, we need to be resilient, because sometimes there are challenging in the teams. Sometimes people are not supporting, and we need to support them, and we are not willing to support because of many situations. And we would like to give up. So that's why as a team we need to be, and as an organization, we need to be more resilient. So it helps the teams also to be motivated to achieve their goal and to regulate their emotion. And of course, these are the resilience team are just the one that advance, rather consider regardless the obstacle that they may find, they just move on and improve themselves. We were talking about events. So there are several events, of course, because we are not ready for everything. You just experience that we have some gaps, or we have some events that we cannot do anything about that. Some events, you can see circle of control, are connected with the behavior. So you can do something by yourself. And our colleagues just already give you some experience. There are some events that are outside of our control, connected with the behavior of others. Imagine we are working as a team. We cannot do anything if one colleague is not cope better. We can influence, at least. And then there are events that we cannot control at all. If I give you an example, the time that we are still feeling about the COVID time, this is something that you cannot control. It's something bigger than us. Therefore, of course, I don't want to go in a kind of academic lesson, because this is not the purpose of this topic. You may find lots of knowledge in internet or some training, just to give you some insight, what is all about this resilience and how it's broken. I mean, there are basically four categories. One is psychological, how you mentally adapt to the challenge and how you cope. Then there is emotional, because these affect also your emotion. When you receive an unpleasant email, the first things you react. So you react soon as it's okay, this email, now they ask me to do this. You know, this is the reaction, the first reaction, because you are not enough resilient. Physical, this can have a consequence on your body, because you feel so stressed. So many situations, are stressed you. This can have a consequence on your body. And the people sometimes just give up because of too many stressors. And then community. Why is community? We just touched the topic of COVID time. So this is as a community, we need to be resilient. All the world were now aware how to cope with the COVID time, and still we are, paying the consequences. And this is as a community, we need to react somehow. This was the case of COVID, this was the terrorist attacks and whatever. So now, of course, we touched several points. And how to build and cultivate resilience. You may understand that this is not something that you can do one time, one shot, and that's all. No, because this is a continuing process. Because tomorrow you will have another stress, another event that you are not expected, and you don't know how to react. So that's why I like, because all speaker, my colleague, just touched the first step that is develop self-awareness. All my previous colleague touched this point. This is the base. You need to recognize what you are good in and what is missing. And then you need to reinforce, as just Olga says, then you need to reinforce something that is missing to cope with the situation. And then you need to start to build some skills. There are training, there are tips, there are exercises, a technique that I will show some of them in order to be more resilient. Of course, you need to increase optimism, because this is the first part. I mean, you need to be optimistic, because if you start with the negativity, then you cannot cope. And there's also something that you need to build, learning some skills, and also the connection, the social connection. This is very important when you are meeting people. Like Piotr was saying in his talk, that he was meeting some friend from university and meeting in different parts. This is also good. You need to establish a connection, new connection, because it gives you lots of insight. And as I told you, it's not one shot, something that you can do one time. It's a continuing process. You need to build, you need to test, you need to reinforce. And these are the 4 C, the control, challenge, confidence, and commitment. Control. See, here I'm giving you some technique that even Emilia was touching at the beginning. So just practicing this, you may have just a different way to react. If something comes that is not pleasant for you, it's coming now at 5 and you are leaving the office, so then you may react. But if you are doing some technique like that, stop, breathe, notice, and then reflect, and then respond. This may help you to change your, let's say, reaction. And the same in the other exercise. This I tried in the company when they were providing a training for resilience. So we tried live, just breathe, hold, release. So this is something that you can apply from today. When we are leaving the office, that you will miss the bus, you will start to be upset, right? So you can start to do this. Okay, I missed the bus, calm down, and then you move on. And then the second C is challenge. We were talking before about mistakes, but if you start to reframe, like using the reframing process, instead of mistake, talk about challenging, so you can learn from experience, as also other colleagues were saying. It will be hard for me? No, let's reframe. What can I do to improve? It's time consuming? Who can support me? You know that this is just changed perspective. And then confidence. You need to be confident, beliefs, and gratitude. So also it's good sometimes to consider what good I am, what strength I have, for what I'm grateful. This is also important because you build confidence. I'm confident in that. Of course, I need something else, but I'm confident in that. And then, of course, commitment. We say, also my colleagues touch this point. It's not one time. You need to commit that, and you need to all the time do the step, repeat, as Olga was saying before. So technique, good thing list, training. And this is too fast. So what I would like to give you and leave to for today some takeaway. You can think, how we were discussing before, how much resilient you are. This is the first step, self-awareness. How much resilient for all events that you have in your life. Empower your resilience. There are technique, there are training, and other experience of other people. And then reframe your difficulty in challenging, and keep learning and move on. And this is the piece of advice that I would like to give you today. And I hope you enjoyed. This was a really great session. And yes.